I don't know if I mentioned earlier, but this I had to pull some hay bales out of the shop, close the shop doors, to give a wide open space for the new goat to become to meet our other little ferocious goat. And sure enough, the little goat, goat number one, didn't take too kindly to goat number two being here. So I put the bunch of bales of hay in here for them to eat and stay separate from each other. And it seems like they're somewhat getting along now. They had to go into close confined quarters for sleep last night, and there's no death this morning. So anyway, that's why these bales are in here. Now, getting on with things. Many voices waiting. Steve, hello. My experience is as follows. I remember it was put off as deer stomping around. As an 11-year-old, I knew nothing for a comparison. I accepted the explanation, and the unique event wasn't thought or spoken of after it was over. During one of our camping trips to the family cabin located at Calistoga, Northern California, the family was gathered at the hammock and garden chairs, fire pit area, just adjacent to our cabin. Behind the cabin there is an abrupt, steep hill, not accessible by humans. It's just too steep and covered with thick, tall brush, grass, stickers, poison oak, large rocks, oak, and pine trees. This is the area where the ruckus came from that Saturday in May or June of '74. We were sitting and conversing, relaxing in the country air after breakfast, when all of a sudden the loudest explosion of stomping and huffing noises, accompanied by what sounded like boulders being hurled to the ground with much force and then rolled. Crashing sounds, cracking or breaking tree limbs, stomping. Startled, I asked my dad, "What is that? What is doing that?" I know everyone else heard what just transpired. The noises sounded like it had to be something huge, with much weight and great strength and anger. Nonchalantly, my dad replied, "Deer," and dismissed my alarm as he really thought deer were the culprit. The loud ruckus over, and my back to the previously mentioned hill, swinging in the hammock, something began throwing pebbles my way, and they were hitting me. Something is throwing rocks at me. That, too, was attributed to squirrels dropping their pebbles off one of the branches of the giant oak tree directly above me. The activity stopped as quickly as it started. We went about the day enjoying the Calistoga countryside, never to speak of this odd experience again. One thing, though, I always had trouble sleeping when I was there at the cabin. I'd wake up at 1 a.m. or so, just wide awake, terrified, scared, feeling like something menacing was watching me. Something would provoke a fear in me, enough to wake me wide awake, something that was outside. And in those wee hours of the silent dark morning, I would try to wish the fear away. I'd pull my blankets tighter around me and close my eyes, praying for safety. Eventually, mercifully, I would fall back to sleep. Upon waking the next day, I would forget about the terror of the night before, and I would enjoy the countryside and play in the creek that ran through our property. Again, however, the fear would awaken me, and a repeat of the same scenario the night before would play out. Isn't it interesting that these interactions with Sasquatch would quickly be forgotten, easily dismissed as some other animal other than what it actually is, forgotten by all who experienced the event? Only as an adult, recollecting my time spent at the cabin in Calistoga, do I now know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, what it was that provided those experiences I had. Excuse me. There are other clues Bigfoot was afoot about the cabin, but for the sake of keeping this anecdote to a readable minimum, I refrain from adding more details submitted here. Thank you. This is the first time I've related my experience to anyone in detail as I have in this email. Maybe my story will jar the memory of a listener of something strange, yet almost lost once forgotten. Concerning an experience buried deep, brought out for recollection to be shared at the round table of knowledge? Maybe. Sincerely, Susan Wester. P.S. You can use my name. Susan, thank you for that. You imagine, wonder what your parents' reaction would have been had your family been informed of the realities and the truths of what's going on out there from the beginning. I wonder what your dad would have done then. I can't say I've ever been woken up with the fear and dread. I've been terrified while the cabin was getting slapped on the outside of it when I was by myself in it, for sure, but I had a rifle with me. When I told everybody about being at an mint lake when I was a little boy, I remember feeling I was just shitting myself standing on that beach. But I don't recall sharing that fear. Probably wanted to suck it up and not say anything. And I don't recall anybody speaking to me of them feeling uncomfortable, that's for sure. But I know I was. I remember it like it was yesterday. And I admittedly didn't feel that comfortable being back at that lake a couple weeks back either. I'm definitely going to go there and I got an inflatable Zodiac. I'm going to take it over there and find that cabin and go check it out. But anyway, that's the only way I can relate to possibly having the same feelings you had when you're in that cabin at nighttime. But you're right, maybe it'll help somebody else out. Maybe somebody will share their experience. Maybe somebody knows something about that area. But either way, people are going to keep sharing their knowledge here. Thank you for that share. Make sure you share more if you come across something that the people here could benefit from knowing, hearing. Man, where to go? I gotta go all the way down. What's this one? You want truth and answers? All right, that's the title to this one. I've been paying attention for a long time now. Over the past year, I've watched you, and recently you asked for more understanding than you currently have, so here we go. First, you already have the answers within you. It's just how to retrieve. May have eluded you thus far. You already figured out what we were told is not the way it is. So stay open-minded as I clue you into a couple of plant teachers that have been misinterpreted as drugs. The spirit molecule, or a DMT, is safest, most powerful, and for a busy guy like you, shortest experiences at 10 to 20 minutes. But when you visit eternity, it feels longer. Shamans have known about this as well as magic mushrooms for tens of thousands of years. If you're still looking for anything, your answers can be found inside that experience and within you. These are definitely not drugs. It is a real, true magic available to all of us. If you've already found these things, I apologize for not having a story for you, but I've truly shifted reality since coming across these things on my journey. The bigger you build the bonfire, the more darkness is revealed. Jeremy L. York. Thanks, Jeremy. Heard all about it, read a lot of it, looking into it. I might try that one day, possibly. And there's a lot of people who claim that that is one way of healing a lot between our ears. Come here. All right, so here they are. I don't know if you can see both of them. There's one. This one's the king of the castle. The other one. All right, anyways, getting on this email. Listen. Uh-oh. Steve, thanks so much for your honesty and for all you do. Appreciate you and all your endeavors by telling the plain truth. My name is Derek and I live in Utah. I've experienced supernatural and paranormal events off and on during the past 52 years that I cannot explain, and I'm not trying to prove anything to anyone. I believe that most people are accountable and responsible for their own thoughts, words, and actions. I believe there is opposition in all things. Now, I'll share one encounter. 2 summers ago, I drove to the parking lot in the mountains to go hiking around 6 a.m. In the parking lot, my car and one other vehicle, I decided not to lock the driver's side door. I've shared this story with 2 other friends. So across the parking lot, one trail goes east up at about 45 degrees hillside. About 50 feet before it turns to the south, continuing at a 45-degree climb, which the trail becomes obscured by trees. I hope this makes sense. As I got to the upside down L-shaped corner, all uphill, as I turned to the south, out of the corner of my eye, down below and across the parking lot, there is a ridge with tall grass. I saw 2 basketball-sized head duck quickly behind the tall grass. I initially thought I'd seen a doe buck behind the tall grass because the color was a light brown or tan. Then I quickly thought that deer do not behave like this. Then I asked myself, did I just see a juvenile being playing a game of hide and seek? I felt no threat, nothing to be afraid of. I felt a sense of playfulness, which did cause me to smile and chuckle out loud. At first I wanted to immediately run down the hill toward the image that ducked behind the tall grass. Then I thought, I'll just play along and pretend that I didn't see it, and started walking uphill to the south behind the trees that blocked my view of the parking lot. I'd walked about 90 seconds within my mind. This image or impression appeared that this juvenile walked to my car, opened the driver's side door, and reached into the passenger side to open my lunchbox and take the sandwich As this impression was going through my mind, I yelled in a very loud voice, "Oh no you don't, that's my sandwich." I'm running back to my car simultaneously. I continued yelling out loud, "You find your own food, and I didn't give you permission to open my car door." As I got to my car, I opened the door and checked my lunch, and my lunch had not been tampered with. I soon realized that this was all a fun game. I then talked really loud, "Oh, I see you were just playing." I continued talking to my friend, hiding somewhere behind the trees, saying in a loud voice, come out, wherever you are." Just then, across the parking lot, towards the main trail head to the south, this man comes running and stops at his vehicle and just looks at me, not saying a word. We looked at each other and in silence without moving for 30 seconds. With his eyes, he was asking me, "Who are you talking to?" I said to this silent man, "Oh, I'm just practicing giving a speech because I'm a speaker." This seemed to satisfy his curiosity, and he did an about face and walked back onto the trailhead into the woods. I got out of my car and drove to my class. The story is just one encounter out of many encounters. I continue to go hiking up in the mountains without fear and without weapons or of any kind alone. You're welcome to tell my story, and if you do, please my first name only, Derek from Utah. Okay, Derek, this sounds pretty frickin' interesting to me. Keep coming. You got more. Keep them coming, man. Keep it coming. We need to learn, and the only way we're going to learn is by listening to you and everyone else who has seen this shit. Goat war is going on at my feet. You might not be able to see it. I got one on either side of me. One wants to beat up the other one. It's only half its size. Upper Current. Hello, sir. Watched one of your YouTube videos for the first time this morning. The one about the broken tree and stomped down grass, etc. Brought back memories. In 88, 89, I met a welder named Bruce. We hit it off immediately. He boarded horses at a stable in Long Beach, right on the river. One was his trucker, and the other one was his brother-in-law's, I believe, a paint whose name I can't recall, both geldings. I grew up in Southern California and always dreamed of being a cowboy. We would meet after work, drink a few beers, and ride up the riverbed, sometimes through a hole in the fence into Bruce's subdivision to his house. Now, Bruce was half Hawaiian and half black, and the subdivision was mostly black, if not all. Being an intercity white boy, I was a little nervous. We were heroes. People were coming out of their houses and gathering their kids to wave to the cowboys. Anyway, Bruce told me a story about him and his brother-in-law hauling the horses to the Upper Kern River horse corral sometime in the late 70s or early 80s, I think. They arrived about 2 in the morning. It was dead quiet. Bruce's Bill went up a trail with a flashlight to piss. Bruce walked back to the trailer to chuck on the horses when something let out a long, blood-curdling scream about 100 yards away. Bruce swore it wasn't a cat or a bear. The next thing, here comes the flashlight shaking up and down the trail as fast as it could go. They left and went down to a hotel. Bruce always told it as an amusing story with the flashlight as the kicker. Eventually he talked me into taking the horses up there for a week. On our second or third day, we were riding up a trail in high, fairly flat going, from meadow to dense forest to meadow. About the third dense forest, the horses stopped in the middle and would not move. They both looked to the left, and our spurs were useless. You could have heard a pin drop, it was so quiet. After about 3 or 4 minutes, they faced forward and moved on. I have to say they were both armed, and neither of us felt hairs on our necks or the need to put our hands on iron, but it's definitely weird. A year later, I moved to Idaho for 15 years and lived the dream. Had horses. Hey, shut up. Hey. It's yelling at you. You could have heard a pin drop, it was so quiet. After about 3 or 4 minutes, they faced forward and moved on. I have to say we were both armed and neither of us felt hairs on our necks or the need to put our hands on iron, but it was definitely weird. A year later, I moved to Idaho for 15 years and lived the dream. Had horses of my own and hunted every year, mostly southeast Idaho, but sometimes up in Salmon/Iron Mountain area. In Salmon, I was always in a group, but at home in Samaria, Idaho, I hunted alone a lot, sometimes horseback or afoot. I can totally relate to what you said, how tracking and spotting becomes second nature. In all my years in Idaho, I never had a weird experience, just North Kern. I'm curious now, are there a lot of stories about Upper Kern? I don't know if you said to use your name or not. Okay, let's just use your first name, Tom. Tom, thanks for that, man. I'm not familiar with the name Kern myself. I'm sure somebody else is going to be on listening to your experience for sure. So I would imagine if they did, they're probably going to write about it in the comment section below this video. So check that out, and I'm sure you're going to find your answers there. Okay, man? Thanks for sending that in. It's funny how many I get. Not for Reed, not for public, just for you only. All right, we got to skip over those while I'm here because this is about all the people. Okay, what do we got? This is titled, They Can Run Faster Than You Think. Hey Steve, hope you and the family are doing well. My name is Matt and I had a very weird encounter. I'll get right into it. Back in 2008, I was delivering auto parts to the western half of Oklahoma in a 24-foot rider box truck. The route ran from 6 p.m., where I loaded everything I needed, till normally around 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. Oh, no way, all night long, eh? Or depending on how quickly I could get it done. I had 2 stops in a town called Vicky. One stop, or VC, is V-I-C-I. One stop was dead center of town, and the last stop was on the far east side of town. I'll attach pictures to show you where this happened. Made the first stop with nothing out of the norm, so I traveled a few miles to the second stop in town. I felt really odd when I got out of the truck, like something was stalking me and watching me. I served in the U.S. Army for 5 years, and I don't rattle easily. Once I made the delivery, I literally ran back to the truck cab like it was going to save my life. Now this is where it gets interesting. I was goofing it out of town as fast as the truck would take me. Okay, that was obviously a typo. I was speeding it out of town as fast as the truck could take me, which was 70 miles per hour. When I came around this curve, something caught my eye to the right side of me. The damn thing was pacing my truck and looking in the window of the truck. The window was up, by the way, while running the same miles per hour my truck was doing, which was 70. At that moment, I can even explain the feelings I was having, mostly fear. I got that metallic taste in my mouth. I still don't know what to make of it to this day. Thanks, Matt. All right, thanks for that short message to me too. I get it, man. And you gotta ignore those people, all right? But anyway, here's the photos. I'll share them if you want. And maybe next time, if you think about it, you could possibly, if you want, email back and give us a detailed description of that thing. Tell us what it looked like, all right? And the look on his face, the expression, how it was moving. That's not a fun thing to see, and we've heard of that more than a few times for sure. Thanks for sending that, man. Make sure you write back with a description if you ever get around to it, get the time, all right? Steve, I have a great deal of respect for you, what you're doing. This may be a bit longer than the average story, but it takes place in quite an odd place and far from the forest. My name is Michael Gieseke. Oh man, I can't pronounce it, I'm so sorry. Gieseke, and I live in Land of Lakes, Florida. My story begins in Dixie County, Florida, on the Suwannee River. Around 1976, while at my father's second home in Old Pine Landing during hunting season, men who were from Vietnam vets and considered family by mine were telling a story about canoeing down the Suwannee close to where the river starts, all the way to Dixie County. These men were serious when explaining how something on 2 feet followed them on the riverbank for miles. At one point, it even broke green limbs from trees at least 8 feet from the ground and screamed/yelled at them violently and threw the limbs at them in the middle of the river. During these years, I've experienced feelings I can only describe as a quick drop in blood sugar, followed by my vision being affected, combined with a percussion wave affecting my ears/affecting my sense of balance. Fast forward to 2016, the strangest gathering of owls in one place. Large owls, 11 of them, all within 100 feet of each other. These owls shouldn't exist in such close proximity of each other, yet here they were, hooting and looking deep into my soul. The first sighting was between 10 and 11 a.m. from a window on the second floor at a distance of less than 60 feet in a green, grassy, open area right in front of the condo I'm living in. The single large tree standing alone from all others in the small strip of wooded area surrounding a lake surrounded by nudist resorts. Yes, not your standard Bigfoot experience. This tree looks to be twice the size as the day before. It looked as though there was new Spanish moss on the east side of the huge pine tree. So much so, I asked my roommate to look at the tree and explain the overnight growth. She and I both looked back at the tree as the Spanish moss on the east side then stepped away from the tree. And I was effing stunned, as was she. It was about 8 to 9 feet tall, and it was gray with black specks. And it looked so much like a Florida screech owl in color, and amazingly, if you were to take the head off of a screech owl and make it proportional to fit on a 8 to 9 foot tall, 700 plus pound upright walking body, that's what its head and face look like. Eye, plates, and all. Crazy. For the next few years, I saw these people who I do not believe were hairy, but actually feathery. I know this sounds crazy. Whenever the screech owls were screeching, I knew they were out there. There are several different types. I'm not sure if they are different species or subspecies or even races of these people. My best friend worked for the NSA, and he has spent the better part of the years trying to disprove many of the outlandish things I've told him. To date, with all his resources, he has yet to disprove anything. Now, as I've become more aware of the presence of these people, owls, the largest owls in the world, are 26 to 28 inches tall from head to tail. If you have ever heard a hoot from an owl way off in the distance, yet the hoot is so loud it rattles your chest, it is physically impossible for such a small animal to make such a loud sound, not owls. I started to hear what I can only describe as two people who don't speak the same language trying to communicate with each other, and flashes of what I will call pictographs in my mind. I would look at the place I knew the sounds were coming from, but nothing was there. Once they realized I was hearing them, the largest one I have seen, I believe him to be the alpha because the others were afraid of him, or like wolves, they were subservient to his authority. He was 14 feet tall, and if I had to guess, 3,000 pounds, and he moved as if he only weighed 100 pounds. He'd come right up to the window of my room. I heard him ask in perfect English if I could hear him. I answered yes. That first night was the end of our dialect. When I saw him in person, it was shocking. He was about 70 to 100 feet up away from me. The sun was setting. When our eyes met, he closed the distance between us in a nanosecond, and his huge face was right in mine. I believe he imprinted on me in such a way he knew my DNA makeup. He would never forget me, as his children and my children would also be this familiar for generations to come. This particular person looked like a giant Paul Bunyan. He looked human as me, just a giant, dark hair, beard, but not a full face of hair. Just no clothes, somewhat hairy, but not unlike myself. This story is still ongoing, and I'll continue if you're interested enough. There's enough information that I cannot share publicly. Oh, there's other information I cannot share publicly. But if you'd like to know my feelings and beliefs, as well as the knowledge he shared with me, use my name. People all believe I'm crazy anyways. Thanks, Steve. Drive on and F them in the neck if they don't believe. I'm not trying to convince anyone of anything. What I know. Michael, Land of Lakes, Florida. Okay, man, that's a handful, right? That is a frickin' mouthful. I'll guarantee you I'm in no position to tell you you didn't witness what you did or not. I'm not the guy. From what I do know what's going on this planet today, anything is possible. For people to think things are impossible is an absolute flaw. But if you have more you want to share directly with me, go ahead, man. I'm all over it. Send it to me. Send me what you got. And you make sure you tell me what you don't want me to share publicly, and it doesn't get shared publicly. If there's anybody out there listening today that has asked me not to share something, or if I've changed their story in any way, please, 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 please email me, let me know, or share it in the comments below, because I can guarantee you I haven't. All right? Everybody's safe here and respected no matter what. Share more if you got it, all right? That is one hell of a handful for anybody to wrap their brain around, for sure. I know one thing, I had owls going at it around me a while back. It was a year ago, I think, or maybe in for last in the woods in the middle of nowhere by myself. And then probably about 6 or 7 trees came crashing down that night. I just laid in my tent, is what it is, right? All right, trouble's back. Little dorks. All right, what do we got? One more. I gotta get moving. Sasquatch Experience, 1981. Hi, Steve, long-time listener, first-time entry. I'd like to tell you about an experience I had back in '81. I was just 8 years old. I must preface this with the fact that I didn't personally see the Sasquatch. This happened on a deer hunting trip. Myself, my father, and 2 of his close personal friends, whom I know from growing up with and seeing often. I even went to school with their sons. Well, we were on a hunting trip in the rural town of Pearl River, Mississippi. Everyone went to their designated hunting stands. I always went with my dad since I was too young to hunt on my own. We didn't see anything that morning. It got time to end the morning hunt, and we went around with the truck to pick up the other 3 guys. The first 2 guys we picked up didn't see anything either, and there wasn't much to talk about. Jerry was the last hunter to pick up. He was not waiting at the end of the road like everyone else knew to do at the predetermined time, so we all got out of the truck and walked to his stand. When we got to his stand, he was completely drained, white as a sheet and unresponsive. My father and another friend had to literally climb up his stand, lower his rifle and himself down out of it. When asked what happened, Jerry said he saw something huge, hairy, and man-like walk right past his stand. He said it stunk like shit. This apparently happened about an hour before we showed up. When asked why he didn't shoot it, he replied he didn't think his rifle would kill it. It's 30-06. This incident shook this man up so much that he never went hunting again. This is a man whom, like my father, spent the entire non-working hours in the woods hunting all their lives. I must mention that when this happened, there were no mention of any Bigfoot sightings in this area. Shortly after there were multiple sightings by other hunters, enough to where they coined the term Honey Island Swamp Monster. I was there that day, and the fear I saw on Jerry's face was real, and that a shock and a sense of withdrawal, like he didn't know just how to deal with it. You can use my name if you wish. Jason DeSales, New Orleans, Louisiana. Wow, Jason. That must have been quite the impact for you to see an adult man reacting like that. Goofy goats. You know, I know some guys, there's a group of guys I know of in BC. I know 1 or 2 of the members of this small, tight-knit group of absolute. When I refer to a fellow hunter in BC as a killer, it's not an insult, it's not a nasty thing to say it. It's almost out of respect when I just use the word killer. It's not, as in killing, it's just like, these guys are killer at what they do, man. They are very, very intense hunters of elk, mule deer, and other species, and they go out of their way to go to the middle of absolute nowhere. And they pass on some enormous sized animals looking for that one special past its prime or prime individual, species, whatever they're after. I'm just saying these guys are right into it, scared enough, and very good at what they do, and none of them believe in this topic. And chatting with one of these guys, direct messaging on a hunting forum a while back, he was questioning my stance on it and saying, do you really believe in these things? These guys, apparently, he said they have a lot of respect for me and my hunting. And I'm like, hey man, I told him flat out, there's nothing I can do about it. Seeing it, there's nothing I can do about it. And anyway, it's probably a year, 2 years later, the same guy emailed me to tell me that one of their group, who lacked this topic, face to face with one of these things, and he's absolutely messed, and he's dumped hunting. Dumped it. Won't go in the woods, and he doesn't want to talk to me, he doesn't want to talk about it, he won't want to talk to those guys. He's done. Changed his, absolutely annihilated his passion for the outdoors, changed his life, turned his world upside down. How brutal is that? That's bullshit. I would have liked to talk to that guy, still would, maybe possibly help him and salvage it, but it just messes with some people. The impact is just way too much to handle. It's a frustrating thing. But anyway, I'll be back with more shortly. Keep sending them in, you guys. You got information, knowledge, share it, all right?